Welcome to another Shout Around conversation where we discuss issues and ideas to create thriving food systems for the future. Shout Around is powered by Inveneer Market Intelligence.
Hello, my name is Johanna. I'm from Inveneer and I'm joined today by my colleague Patricia. Welcome.
Thank you.
And today we thought that we would discuss a very current topic, which is, of course, the corona pandemic. We're right now in the middle of it as we're recording this, and we've been getting a lot of questions from our customers and stakeholders on what does this mean for food systems. And that's a question that we've been thinking a lot about. What does this mean, and how do we explain this, and what's going to happen? And everybody has questions, and very few of us have definitive answers. But this is something we've been thinking about a lot lately. And in a very unfortunate and tragic way, we think that this is a perfect example of something that is called VUCA, a VUCA world, VUCA. So, Patricia, you've been looking into VUCA things. So, first of all, what is VUCA? What is a VUCA world?
Yeah, well, as you're saying, it's the world that we're living in right now. I mean, the term, I guess, comes more from military planning and used to be a term for a world that is volatile and uncertain and complex and ambitious, and that is sort of the definition of it. And I think, I mean, we've been living in that world for quite a while, but currently with this incident, it's sort of quite a big disturbance and what we would say an unplanned disturbance as well. So it's something that we maybe knew that might come, but then it always takes us by surprise when it comes anyway. So it's really just a description of the world that we live in, I guess.
Yeah. And like you said, it's not, what's happening right now is not really unforeseen, but it is unplanned, and it's taken people by surprise how strong the effects have been. And what do you think have been the biggest effects for the food system? How is this all manifesting within food system? What is this causing for the food system?
Yeah, well, I think the big topic here is also that it's a combination of so many different things. Also, because it's a health crisis, but at the same time, it's about how all the governments are reacting and how the countries are using different strategies to deal with this. And from all those actions and the decision comes, of course, a lot of new situations connected to this whole challenge. So it's a very complex challenge by itself. The interesting thing I would say is that food is mentioned all the time in all connections to this coronavirus, because it's, in a way, it's a reminder of how important our food systems are to us and how much they are affected when something like this happens. So in general, it's just interesting to see how much discussion there is about food and food systems currently that maybe wasn't the case half a year ago.
And food of course is completely essential, even in a situation like that, and especially in a situation like that, the role of food and food production is just emphasized, because no matter what, we are going to need food, and we're going to need ways of delivering food to people. So it's really a completely essential, crucial thing in the society.
Yeah, but then how it sort of manifests currently then is that we see how vulnerable the whole system is, the global system is, and it it's factories not getting their ingredients to produce their products. It's about workforces that are not more mobile at the moment, and of course everything connected to transport and distribution and anything really connected to food. Yeah, and then also this uncertainty of how long this will last, and especially when we go into to growing season and harvesting and everything. I mean, that's the big challenges are still to come, really, when it comes to this. So we can see that very sort of high dependence of inputs from elsewhere. It's a big topic that sort of shows in this, and also food mileage in that respect, that from all the different places that the ingredients come from, but also how much the food travels once it's produced. And I think with this, when we have this lockdown sort of mentality, then also these questions come up, and we see them quite differently now. How much food travels,
and how much inputs are needed from elsewhere. Obviously, things like ingredients or fertilizers or energy or something like that, but also workforce, because right now here in Finland, of course, and I'm assuming that elsewhere as well, we are facing a situation where the upcoming harvest season is causing problems, because there are so many people coming from abroad, foreign workforce that's coming for the harvest season. And of course, this situation is preventing anyone from coming here to work. And it's a real concern of, well, how are we able to produce and then harvest this food? And of course, it just goes on in the chain as we go on further, but it's really showing a lot of these very global dependencies and complicated things that otherwise are not very visible, but now all of a sudden are just right there for us to see. So it's quite an interesting situation in that sense. But what about then? What kind of opportunity is this for? Obviously, this is a horrible situation that we're finding ourselves in the whole world, but this may also be an opportunity to think about how food systems should be, and what's not working in the current system, and how things could be and should be, and how the food system could look like. And what do you think are some of the key features or key aspects of a food system that would be fit for a future where this is not going to be the last of these kinds of unforeseen incidents that we're going to be facing?
Yeah, I think once something like that hits you, I think the first thing you have to start thinking about is really what kind of food system you want, because the food systems that will come out of this are the ones that we will create, and we have to think real hard about what kind of food systems we want and how we can make them more resilient and more connected and more versatile, so that they can serve us well in future situations. So I think sort of just before you go into what they will look like and so on, I think we really have to sort of be thinking about that it's up to us and our own mindset and our own way of thinking that is now important, that we are given this opportunity to slow down and rethink and redesign, and we should really use that moment, because it's a very rare moment that we have it like this, and really think about what is important, what do we have, what kind of resources do we have, and how can we use them in the best possible way, and be both innovative and creative in this time. So I think that mindset has to be there as the foundation now when we move forward, because it's up to us what kind of future we create. But then when it comes to what kind of opportunities come out of this, I mean, there's a lot about talk about this, that we will sort of bounce back and get back to normal and all that. And I see it more that we really should bounce forward and think completely differently about our food systems, because as I was saying, this is the moment to change things if we want to change things. So this gives space to is, I guess, food systems that are maybe smaller, network based, connected. We sometimes talk about the food webs. So I think that kind of form where the roles maybe are not that defined, when you have the ability to also have different roles in the food system, depending on the situation, and also sort of that the whole system has to be, have that kind of buoyancy and plasticity in a way that it's you can change it, and it doesn't break if you bend it a little bit and so on. So I think that needs to be built in more, and that comes from circularity. I think that's one of the main principles, and also this sort of at least trying to find as many different sources for those inputs that you might need in your system. I mean, strive for that the system will feed itself and be a own living system. But if it isn't, then at least try to have options of input, so that you are not completely dependent on only one kind when something happens. I think that's one big topic. And then, I guess everything connected with this sort of thinking of agroecological symbiosis, that many have to work together, and together they create smaller systems that can support them, and also maybe help others, but with different things, so that there is that exchange as well between different food webs and food systems.
Yeah, I think, there's a kind of an analogy to the natural world that comes to mind, that obviously in the natural world, what we need is biodiversity. It's very important to maintain and preserve biodiversity, because that mitigates risk as well. If we're just purely thinking from the risk point of view, the less we have biodiversity, the more vulnerable the systems are. And that's a bit similar to food systems, what sort of man-made systems that we're talking about now, obviously based on the natural systems. So the more we have diversity, the more resilient we are, I think, and the more sort of we're able to be more flexible. Instead, if we were in a system where it was very sort of monocultural and all of that, so that I think those kinds of systems are showing their vulnerability in these situations, while they may be working at least on the surface quite efficiently in other kinds of situations. Although of course we know that there are hidden costs, and it may not be all good and well in those situations as well, but in these kinds of situations, it's really kind of showing how vulnerable it is when the system is not diverse and flexible.
Yeah, and then I think also for food systems have such a special role in human life. Also, sort of as a, if the food system is resilient, then we as people also are resilient, and we need to, and I can see some signals to that, and that's a very positive thing as well, that we need to start sort of connecting our own health and well-being, sort of bodily health, to the planet's health. And also what we can see now when people don't live their normal lives is that they start, many of them start gardening and growing food and wanting sort of return to the soil and return to the gardening, and I think that's such a sort of strong sense that people have when it comes to challenges like this, that you sort of go back to what's important to you, go back to where you can also sort of be well and thrive as a person, I think. And then I think that connection is also now really important. So partly it's expressing itself in that people want to grow their own food and garden and have their small urban gardens or bigger ones, whatever, but as long as they have that sense of they are in connection with nature, working together with nature and producing something. I think that's one thing. And the other sort of thing which is connected to this community is that you start to support your local businesses in a completely new way. You as a consumer, you use that argument as one of the main arguments, that I'm going to buy from someone local so that they can continue doing what they're doing. And that's another sort of big opportunity for a lot of businesses from now onwards, is to capitalize on that and also keep that alive also when this is going into a next phase, whatever that will be.
So what you're really actually talking about is another topic that we've talked a lot about and feel that is very important, is active food citizenship. So that's actually, this is a situation where we, all of us as eaters, as food citizens, are realizing that we might actually want to have a more active role in the food system, and we also feel like we want to, because this is highlighting to us that it's dangerous to think that the food system is something that I'm not really a part of. It's something that's just, happening somewhere else, coming from outside and from above. And when something like this happens, then you don't have any control over what happens, and you can't have an impact, or you can't have a say in it. So I think this is also an opportunity for people to realize and put into action being an active food citizen. So exactly what you were talking about, sort of feeling empowered to actually take action to support your local food system, or start growing something yourself, or whatever. But this is highlighting how the food system needs to be something that we as active food citizens are part of, and we own it, and this is our food system, and it's really up to us what it's going to be in the future. So I think this situation also highlights this aspect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, well, while this is a very dire situation, I think we can end on a high note and wrap things up by saying that still this offers a lot of opportunities, and this is a situation and a chance for us to be active and start taking ownership of the food system. And this is really a situation where all of us, no matter if we're eaters of food or producers of food, or if we're offering a marketplace, if we're selling the food, or restaurants or whatever. So this is really an opportunity for all of us to think about how we want the system to be in the future, and how we're going to be more resilient and more prepared for things to come and things to happen in the VUCA world.
Yeah, I think we challenged in a good way. We challenged and to find that those new ways of producing and developing these food systems that are based on both this sort of circular thinking, but also this, what you were talking about, this sort of people-powered thinking. I think that's a solid foundation for our food systems to thrive.
Absolutely. Okay, I think that's a good place to wrap things up, and we'll maybe come back to this topic later on and discuss things further. But for now, thank you, Patricia.
Excellent. Thank you.